aspects of the game creates a level of toxicity which is counterproductive.
So you've described a really difficult situation there, where young referees and yourselves have faced scrutiny is one thing, abuse is something completely different.
Absolutely.
And we know you guys have faced a lot of abuse, and some people would turn around and say it's part of the job. It's part of football that spectators should be allowed to scream at the referee and tell them what they think of them. But actually, the impact on you and your families, you've seen firsthand, and that can be pretty devastating, can't it? It can be very difficult.
No, of course it can. And like we say, football is full of opinions. Everybody's entitled to their opinion about a decision or about a moment in a match, or how good a referee is, or how good a player is. That's an opinion. But we see all too often these days, both towards referees, to players, to managers, even to club executives, where that opinion crosses over into the unacceptable. Personal abuse, racial abuse when it comes to some players who've missed penalty kicks in important matches for England. And all that behaviour from those keyboard warriors and from outspoken people, whether it be on TV or radio, who don't actually consider what they're saying in that moment. They have a responsibility to consider what they're saying. So all that kind of abuse and disrespect that crosses the line after having the opinion that you're fully entitled to is just unacceptable. And it doesn't matter who it's to.
It's worse for referees, though, isn't it? You get more of that than anybody else in football, don't you? Surely.
Most likely, but let's not. We shouldn't minimise the abuse that's directed to all participants in the game, and the impact then that can have on performance for the individual, because that's one of those external factors that I mentioned before. If we're continually criticising, continually giving negativity without any kind of balance about a player's performance or a referee's performance, it doesn't matter whether it's an ex-referee or an ex-player in the media, if it's just a continual critique without offering any other balance, any other kind of positive redress, then that adds to the toxicity. It adds to a environment where nobody thrives at all.
Have you had situations where you've had a load of stick for a decision you made and you've had to sit there, you can't say anything, you're sitting presumably at home or you're heading to the next game in silence while all of that's going on, all that noise is going on around you? Would you like the opportunity to come out and say, actually, listen, this is why I made the decision, do you think referees want that ability to be able to
I think it's always
communicate with the public?
I think it's always good
directly
if there's an opportunity to try and educate people about why a decision's been made, and the reasons that have been used to reach that decision. Now, the flip side of it is a lot of people might not like the answer that they hear. And so if they're not getting the answer they want to their question, then it's almost counterproductive. And the more you maybe try and explain to people, and the more people want. So again, there's a very, very, very fine balance.
It's something Howard Webb's been trying to do.
Yeah.
With refs mic'd up and all the rest of it, and explaining decisions. And I think there's been a positive response to that, to be fair. That questioning of your ability, of your decision making is very personal.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there's a team of you, and I know you get a lot of support from the PGMO, but it's one guy at the end of the day. And your integrity was questioned by Liverpool supporters who accused you of being a Man United fan and making decisions for Man United. When that sort of thing happens, how does that feel?
The most frustrating part of a lot of things is how factually inaccurate people deliberately choose to be. So, football's rife with wild conspiracy theories with many different aspects. Things are always reported, maybe inaccurately. In recent times, since VAR has been introduced, there's many examples of where you can listen to something on the radio or a match report on the television or read a report online, and it says a decision was made by VAR, and you're thinking, well, it wasn't. It was actually taken by the match officials on the field. So there's almost this unhealthy obsession and a false narrative creating that VAR is making absolutely every single decision, and that's nothing further from the truth. A lot of decision making still happens on the field, and that's always got to be the ultimate aim about making a positive, correct decision on the field. Everything then gets skewed with factual inaccuracies about things, and then that gets more traction, and then it creates more focus, more scrutiny, which is even more inaccurate. And so people need to take a step back and really think about what they're saying, what they're writing, and how that impacts on things going forward.
Do you have to be Teflon? Over your career, did you develop a greater ability for the slings and arrows that were coming your way to kind of deflect them and not let them affect you as much?
Undoubtedly, to stay at the top level for so long, you've got to develop your own brand of resilience. It's very personal to each individual, so you have to find your own solutions how you cope with that.
What did you do?
So I think personally, my internal emotional fight continually is about how do you find the balance between creating a feeling of invincibility when you're going into a high profile, or any game in fact. How do you create that invincibility that you know you're going to be confident in doing your job, and you can withstand any of the pressures, including anything that might follow the match, against being honest enough and being in an environment where you can be vulnerable to truly be in touch with how you're feeling and actually share those feelings, and try and lose that stigma of having that stiff upper lip and always saying, yeah, absolutely everything's okay. Because again, in elite sport, there's a big tendency to say, if somebody speaks up to say they either need a break or they want to discuss something outside the parameters of being tough, then there's this stigma that something's wrong and they shouldn't be involved in a match as a player or official, which to me is pretty nonsensical.